Did you know that there are actually really cool people across the entire political spectrum? It's not just the left, it's not just the right. There are actually good and smart people who are willing to have honest discussions on every side of the political landscape, to say the least. But for some reason, too often, the left would just call everyone on the right a Nazi or alt-right. And now we have this article from The Verge. I'm not going to read through the article. I just want to highlight a few things, because today I'm going to talk about love bombing and hate bombing, two strategies to manipulate people and to force them to bend to your will. Although I think some of we'll talk about it. But this is a story about ContraPoints. The Oscar Wilde of YouTube fights the alt-right with decadence and seduction. ContraPoints is an elegant, whip-smart middle finger to the putrefying swamps of the internet. No, listen. I really like ContraPoints. I think her YouTube channel is brilliant and amazing. And I disagree with some of her points, particularly the capitalism video that she made. I watched part 1, I haven't finished part 2, but I think I have some criticisms of how she criticizes capitalism, in that people usually criticize a system based on its worst attributes. And that's not okay. In ContraPoint's video about capitalism, she says that it's, people have shitty jobs, it's alienated labor, things that affect, and the oft-repeated trope that it's a few wealthy fat cats who are extracting the value from the individual, and that's only technically true. It's highlighting one of the worst aspects of it. But at its core, capitalism means that the private individual has the right to control the fruits of their labor and trade it as they see fit. From that, we can grow into crony capitalism, and I'm not a laissez-faire capitalist. Things get out of control. That's why I do believe in regulation. However, you go too far to the left, then the individual can't control the fruits of their labor. So that's just a criticism I have, but I really think ContraPoints is absolutely brilliant. What I can't stand is, whatever this weird tribalistic mainstream media is. Because ContraPoints is obviously left, critical of capitalism, critical of the alt-right, made a great video on incels, and I thought all of it's not only funny, but insightful, and it's the kind of, one of the reasons I really like ContraPoints is that we need more alternative left-wing voices too, because the establishment seems to be inundated with tribalist, crazy people. Look at this article. Fights the alt-right with decadence and seduction. No, ContraPoints is just a left-wing YouTuber who makes good points and talks about a wide array of issues. Why would you put that she's fighting the alt-right with decadence and seduction? That's the media for you, deceptive and misleading headlines. There's a couple things I want to point out in here. For one, we have, what I want to talk about in this video is love bombing, all right? So I'll bring this up in a second, but love bombing is basically this technique where you hug people and you tell them how much you love them, and you make them fear losing that love, and it's an attempt to get them to, I guess, agree with you and want to be a part of your group. Humans love social acceptance. So many people are driven by it. That's why so many people want to be famous. That's why, I think Donald Trump is mostly driven by trying to be accepted by as many people as possible. He just wants people to see his big name, bright, shiny gold letters on top of buildings. So there's a technique called love bombing. Cults use this. Churches use it. That's kind of it. Weird, creepy groups tend to overly love bomb people. You tell them how smart they are, how great they are, you compliment them, you laugh at their jokes, and you make them feel like what they're doing is working. And because humans naturally want to fit into a tribe, they're going to respond positively to this. Thus, you can slowly push someone to becoming an extremist. And I've seen personalities who are run-of-the-mill conservatives go full-on white ethno-nationalist, and it bums me out, because I think they've gone kind of nuts, but it's because, look, when you post something on the internet, people who like it are going to say, that's cool and I like it, and they're going to retweet it. And the more extreme a person is, the more likely they're willing to engage and share your content. Then when these people see that, when they see they're getting shares and likes and replies, they go, wow, this is working, I should keep doing it. And they slowly start moving in a direction to get the most possible. This same problem affects all these news organizations like The Verge, which I've got pulled open. They make an article called, Is Donald Trump Racist? And it gets 20 shares. And they go, oh. So then they make an article called Donald Trump is Racist. Now it gets 30 shares. The next day they make Donald Trump, is he like Hitler? 50 shares. And then finally they make Donald Trump Hitler 2.0 and they get 1 billion shares and 1 billion views. They make money and they feel like what they're doing is working. And they want to justify their work. And that's what this more decentralized love bombing is. So as much as I think ContraPoints is great, let's criticize The Verge here. Because they say that Colombia's free. Okay, but the pressures make missteps costly. Last November, she was harshly criticized by many of her viewers for agreeing to a Vancouver debate at the University of British Columbia's Free Speech Club with the EnthnoNationalist YouTuber Blaire White, who is notable for being one of the few visible trans faces on the extreme right. Condemnation was swift, and she was accused of legitimizing a fascist. I'm pretty sure Blaire White's not an ethno-nationalist. That's pretty extreme. And it calls her a trans face on the extreme right. I'm pretty sure that's not true. I mean, let's pull up Blaire White's YouTube channel and just see what she talks about. Okay, so here's Blaire White at asking strangers which of us is trans. Psychic tells me I'm pregnant. Awkward. Oh, but I'm trans. The truth with Shane Dawson. You can't unsee this. The truth about the LGBT in the Middle East. Okay, so that's a conservative talking point about pro-LGBT rights in the Middle East. I tried to live as a man for a day. Look, I'll admit I'm not going to go through every single one of Blaire White's YouTube videos, but I'm pretty sure she's not an ethno-nationalist. The Verge, are you writing fake news? And when we go to Blaire White's actual Wikipedia page, it just says she's an American political YouTuber and conservative political commentator. Expresses anti-feminist views and advocates for men's rights, and it really sounds like she's just conservative. Anyway, let's move on to this idea about hate bombing, because I did talk about love bombing a little bit. So the writer of this piece says, I came to the interview wanting to ask pointed questions about some of her biggest controversies and criticisms. Her abortive debate with Blaire White, her vulnerability to the tactic of love bombing, attempting to influence someone with insincere positive attention from the alt-right, and her decision to accept an interview with journalist Jesse Singal, an inexplicitly frequent commentator on trans issues whose work is regarded by many trans people as hostile to the community. So here's what's really funny. After the interview with Singal, ContraPoints says, or apparently according to the story, she was horrified later when she saw that Singal's recent, much-criticized cover story for The Atlantic, a 10,000-word apotheosis on his moral panic about trans kids receiving treatment for gender dysphoria. It's a popular hobby horse for the media in both the US and UK, scaremongering about an imagined wave of young gender nonconforming cis children being forced by well-meaning doctors to take hormones and have life-changing surgeries. She says, I cried when I saw the cover of The Atlantic, she told me, because I realized I had been an alibi to this person who'd just written this article for a major glossy magazine with a cover that appears to misgender a trans child twice. Well, can I just point out that whenever you do an interview with these magazines and these news organizations, they lie. Obviously not whenever. I did, well, I don't want to get into the nitty gritty and risk getting sued, but there was a New Yorker article about me, which was pretty much fake news, and they begged me to confirm things that weren't true. It's not a recent story. I did a story with Andrew Morantz, and he was fair. He was spot on. But a couple of years ago, they did a story on me that was just, to say the least. And there's some other magazine interviews I did, and I don't want to get too much into it because they'll probably come after me. But yeah, full of lies. And when I look at this story, and Contra says that she was an alibi for this person. Well, I feel like it's similar with this. Sure, you can be on your YouTube channel honest and have good points and be funny, and you can be wrong. I disagree with a lot of what ContraPoints says, but I think she has a great channel. And this frames it more like she's hardcore far left, and maybe that's true for Contra, but at least ContraPoints is more libertarian and understands the pursuit of individual happiness, so I can respect that. But let's take a look at hate bombing, right? So I talked a little bit about love bombing. Love bombing is just, they call it insincere, but that's to me like a conspiracy theory. Sure, like cults do it. But when you post something that, say, conservatives like, they're going to tell you they like it. And people are going to respond positively to that. And when you do things the left likes, they're going to tell you they like it. And both sides will absolutely, shit all over you if you do things they don't like. And later in the article, Contra, I think actually in this tweet thread. So let's pull up Natalie Wynn, ContraPoint's real name, says, it's going to take a while for me to get over this breakup with an imaginary partner. And this is in reference to her YouTube audience. I'm going to have to slowly reinvest my emotional energy in other people, other networks. And until I do that, I'm not agreeing to any more goddamn debates. That's done. I'll do the Vancouver one because I've agreed to that, and I'll do my damnedest to make the most of it, but no more after that. My heart can't take the backlash anymore. And this is what I call a symptom of being love bombed. So in this thread, which I'm not going to read the entire thing, ContraPoints talks about how she's given too much weight to her audience because they were praising her and telling her how much they liked her videos and it felt good. But as soon as she did something they didn't like, they started to rip her to shreds. And because of that, she has now faced this emotional backlash, and she's not going to do any more debates because of it. And that is the hate bomb. When you get sucked into a cult, this is what they do. And I'm not saying everyone on the left is in a cult. I'm just saying this is a tactic of cults. They love bomb you. And then if you do anything that could be a bad thing for the cult or the religion, they will hate bomb you. And that will make you feel bad. You'll feel like you're losing something. And people don't like losing things. So it takes a particular strength of will to resist these kinds of things. And I don't believe anyone's invincible unless you're like a true sociopath without emotions. Not even I am invincible. It is rather frustrating to see people openly lie about me every single day, posting ridiculous nonsense. I'll tell you, somebody posted on my Facebook that I was a right-wing reactionary who felt that social media companies have a right to ban whoever they want. And I was like, what? I've literally tweeted like 50 times, it is a bad thing that these companies control public discourse and can ban whoever they want. And I've actually said I think regulation makes sense, though I don't think I'm smart enough to know what we should do. I always lean more towards we must regulate these systems for various reasons. And then these people just make things up. And what they'll do is they'll block me and then post a huge thread about total nonsense. They do it on Reddit, they do it on Twitter. And I think the reason they do it is because they don't have any actual arguments against me because I'm a goddamn fence-sitting centrist who doesn't have any particularly strong opinions to begin with. So when I criticize them for their absolute nonsense, like hate bombing Natalie Wynn, they make up stuff and just say I'm a right-wing reactionary. That explains it. And they're trying to poison the well because they can't actually argue against my point. So what we're seeing with Contra, this is from almost a year ago, this is from November 2017, is the response to when people make you feel welcome and make you feel good about the work you're doing. And I'm sure that Contra, looking at her YouTube channel and seeing those numbers going, seeing those subscribers go up. I mean, she recently tweeted about how she surpassed 200,000 subscribers, and I'm sure that feels really, really good. I'm sure it feels great. And then you do one thing wrong and your audience turns on you, and what happens is that the role controls the person. Look at what happened with Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez this morning. She praised John McCain, and she got ripped to shreds by everybody, basically, because people on the right, I've got people criticizing me because I said nice things about John McCain too. And there are people on the left who are absolutely saying terrible things. It's mostly like just the center of the political compass who are, expressing condolences for the passing of McCain. But as soon as Cortez becomes a Democratic, candidate, an actual party member, all of a sudden now her rhetoric starts slipping into the mainstream because she is fitting this position. And that's exactly what happens. And it happens to everybody. So for me, at least, I made a joke about Donald Trump not putting America first when he criticized when he mentioned South Africa, and naturally a bunch of Trump supporters on Twitter started telling me I was wrong and it was a cold take and what am I doing? I don't care. It was a joke that I thought was funny, and I hope, because I'm not invincible, I hope that I always stick to just posting what I feel like posting when I feel like posting it, and that's really it. And I lose subscribers relatively often. Like I lost subscribers in the video I made today because I made comments about McCain, and it happens. And this is one of the struggles of being of trying to be as nonpartisan as possible. I know full well if I made a channel where I was hardcore left wing arguing in their defense, making smart points, I'd gain 1 million subs. I know that if I did the same thing to the right, I'd gain 1 million subs. I work hard. I produce videos every day. Now 2 videos on my main channel, 3 on my second. I know that I'm doing way more than most people to see my work succeed. But the one thing that really does hold me back in terms of trying to build a big audience and make money is the fact that I'm not willing to be overtly partisan because I just don't think it's right. So hopefully I can stay that way. I don't know. But I'll end by saying this, right? So to reiterate, love bombing, hate bombing, they happen, and it works because people are emotional. I'll also add that I think ContraPoints is one of my favorite YouTubers, and I've been watching her videos for a while now. And what's so important about what ContraPoints is doing is that the YouTube space is dominated by conservatives when it comes to media and news. And we need more people who are, it wasn't true always, right? because there were a lot of famous YouTubers who were very much on the left and got very famous because of it. But I'm talking about actually debating political issues. I'm not talking about culture commentary. I'm talking about debate capitalism. I'm talking about, these certain issues that I think ContraPoints gets to in terms of politics that I can appreciate. And so whether or not, I think a lot of people who watch me know this. They tell me all the time they disagree with me, but they appreciate that I'm trying to be honest. And I can say the same thing for ContraPoints. Though I think she's wrong in many ways, I think they're hilarious videos and they're really well made. So if you haven't, check out some of her videos. And I think Brett Weinstein has even praised ContraPoints because I think what she does is fantastic. But you know what? I'm biased because as at least as the intellectually honest would like to understand, I am a liberal. So of course, I like what ContraPoint says, although her criticisms of capitalism, I'm a centrist, social liberal, so I like capitalism. Yeah, but anyway, I'm not going to rant any longer. Stick around. I got a couple more videos coming up, and it probably already launched anyway.